You're listening to the Light Over Time podcast with David Sargent and Korey Bartos. It is April 25th, 2026, and it has been a wild ride so far this year. I guess you could say quarter one has been filled with loads of nonsense, lots of shooting, which is good, and a little bit more adventure than we're certainly used to during the winter. So we have a pretty good show today. We have some interesting parallels that we're going to get into, which is cool. It's going to be a little gear heavy, but it's gear heavy because we're talking about the photography that we're taking, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think how we're going to make it work the best with time is I'm going to kind of get started and kind of lead into some of the things that I wanted to talk about, because a lot of what I will talk about will kind of go into your experience with what you're currently doing, which will be really interesting. So I'll just kind of get all of mine out of the way because it'll be much more brief. And then we can get into your San Diego trip, and you have a good amount of photography we can go over and talk about, which will be pretty cool. Yeah. So without further ado, I have one update about our Goose mother outside.
Okay, yes.
She's still doing great, despite heavy rains and things like that. I get to watch her kind of reorganize her 3 eggs more into the middle of her little pillar. That's pretty cute. I'm hoping that these goslings will hatch soon.
You said despite heavy rain, but even since our last show, you guys have had some crazy windstorms too, so things are holding up?
Yeah, the wind's been crazy, but we've had basically torrential floods, which is insane. Which is probably good for the goose, because the river's so high that they won't have to jump down too far to get into the water, which will be pretty fun. But yeah. Anyway, just wanted to update y'all. I can't wait. I'm hoping that I can catch the gooses when they hatch, and maybe get some footage or a handful of photos, because that'll be really cute.
Yeah, imagine the moment. I mean, if you could see them like leave the nest.
Yeah,
because they're never going back, right? If they jump down.
Oh yeah, there's not a chance.
That would be a cool one to catch.
And that river's gonna push them down pretty far, so they'll get onto their adventure pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right, so my biggest update for you all is that I traded some things around, as I do often. If you've been around here for a while, I have a gift of kind of moving things for stuff I want. And I picked up a Fuji XT-4.
Yeah, you did.
So there's a few reasons for that. There's a few reasons why I wanted the XT-4. The XT-4 has a proper flip-out screen. The XT-5 got rid of that, which is funny because
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so they're back at just the tilt screen on the XT-5. But why it doesn't make sense to me is when you fold it in, it looks more like a film camera than the XT5 ever can. You can completely ignore the screen, completely, protect it, and it has that nice texture that makes it feel like it's an older camera. It's been a lot of fun. I've been kind of forcing myself to use it a little bit for work. I used it in Florida, I used it in Houston, for a handful of things. I'm still getting used to it because it's a little flat, and there's a custom button on the front that the previous owner puts custom film sims on, which I like to use because there's like a Portra 400 one and like Tri-X and some other stuff, but I hit it all the time. So, and the first one's Tri-X, so I'll just be like shooting, and then all of a sudden everything's really like contrasty and black and white, and I'm like, yeah. But 2 card slots. It has all the things that I need if I happen to only have this and need to do something for work. It can shoot 4K 60, 26 megapixels. It can shoot, I think, 15 frames a second at full speed. I got this with a battery grip and a handful of lenses. And I've already sent all of the other lenses that I got with it to MPB. So I will be getting their 23 millimeter f1.4 weather resistant, which is the newer model, which kind of, the older ones, the older 1.4s have like a manual focus clutch, which I actually really like, but they're just slower and it's just kind of a pain. So there's some growing pains. I forced myself to use this over my A7CR. And a couple of things to note is this is not a small camera. Even with this 16 mil, which is like somewhat small,
Yeah.
this is harder to pack than an A7CR with the 50 mil 1.4.
Hmm.
Just because it's so tall, which I'm sure you relate to with your ZF, because
Yeah.
it's going to be similarly tall. They're probably very similar in size. Two full-size card slots is dope, though. Um, I send video to one. I think I'm sending video to one. Maybe that's my other camera. But then I just have tons of space, which is nice because I'm doing all RAW and JPEG. I have some comparisons here we'll get to in a second. But I kept the 16. I also have this Viltrox 56 mil, and that's the f1.4XF from them. This is not a great lens. It's very cheap though. I think it's like sub $200. So
It sounds like that's one of the older lenses that now, because now they've got like a pretty well organized, separated lineup of lenses. Is that like one of the ones before they started releasing like the Evo and the Airlines?
yeah, I have to imagine this one's slightly
Okay.
older. But it still has an aperture ring. It is metal. It's nice. Tons of CA, but what do you
Yeah.
expect from a really fat? It's a 1.4. It's basically an 85 mil prime.
Sure.
And it has a ton of CA, but it's been useful enough because I'm on a 16, which is a 24 mil equivalent. I needed something a little longer, so I kept it. MPB wouldn't give me very much. I think they'd give me like under $100 for it. So I was like, well, it's worth more to me to just have an 85 than to sell it for $100. But yeah, it's been interesting. I realized with the XE4 when I had that a few years ago, it just was a little bit too much like a toy. It didn't feel very good. It was like fine. I can't remember. I don't believe that's weather sealed, so that's a thing. This has all the like heft and everything that I want. I like the EVF in the center. Like I always try to go to the other, the ones over to the side, like the rangefinder style. But this one's big. It works well. The worst thing about it. So this one also has IBIS, which is interesting and good because I'm using a bunch of primes that don't have anything. So I can get with photos really, really slow, like 1/10, like really easily. It doesn't really struggle. However, I used it in the vlog that I will talk about here shortly, and it's atrocious for video. It's some of the worst. It's like the jerkiest, like just nauseating IBIS I've ever used, which is a shame because I was kind of hoping that I could potentially pull it off as a vlog thing. I don't know that that's going to be the case. I could tripod it really well. There's some uses for it. Slow-mo B-roll kind of things are probably okay. But the IBIS was pretty brutal, walking around with a prime lens. And that was with a 24, so it's not like it was a particularly telephoto lens. That should have been relatively okay. What else do I have here for notes? So the form factor, all that stuff. Since the XT5, which I believe came after the XH2S, those were the last time I feel that they were making kind of serious cameras that were capable of doing work.
I do agree.
I think the XC5 is like a little bit like a toy. Obviously, the X100 series is not like it's a fixed lens camera. It's just not for anything other than running a 35mm lens and doing the thing. And then the XT33 and all that stuff, they're all fine, but then you have a knob that's just dedicated to film sims and things like that. They're much more playful, walk around fun cameras, and I think Fuji has it in them to do really solid work in the X series of cameras. But maybe they just felt like that wasn't the people that were I swear during the XT3 era, maybe even like just at the end of the XT2, I feel like so many people were using Fuji for more than just like street photography and fun.
I feel like it was like the YouTube camera space was very Fuji heavy at that time.
Yeah, and so I don't know. It's interesting. I think the feature set on this is awesome. I believe they might be coming out with an XT6 soon, and I don't have any reason or plans to like get the XT6. I'm going to run this camera for a while because it's fun, but I'm curious to see what direction they go. If the XT6, much like the XE5, will be more expensive and strays farther away from that, like, somewhat, it's their flagship, right? Like, it should be able to do like pretty professional work regardless. I mean, they have beautiful telephoto lenses. They have a 100 to 400 and a 150 to 600. I was like kind of tempted I might rent one just to see if it's capable of birding. They have, you know, obviously some macros, some good portrait primes, things like that. They have a lot of options. And like you can find some of their nicer lenses used for well under $1,000, and some of these cameras for well under $1,000 still, especially the ones that aren't like trendy. And so it's been interesting. So I'm gonna go through just excuse me, a handful of different photos that I shot. So basically, I'll have a RAW that I edited, and then a JPEG straight out of camera of the same image, just so we can kind of compare what I was seeing and what I was finding. So I did a good job while we were in Florida. I guess I'll take a step back. Elle and I were in Florida birding for 6 days, and I decided to vlog the whole thing. So we have a channel now. I'll link it below. It's called Korey and Elle, and it's just going to be kind of casual vlogging of our bird things. I might make some other content. We might talk about like how we decide on our trips and what we do to try to find the birds that we find and things like that. So it could be fun. I have many more episodes from this Florida trip to make. We released basically day one as a sub 7-minute vlog, and
I really enjoyed it. Do you think that other videos will be of a similar length, or do you think they'll be a little more bulky?
I'm trying to keep them relatively short. Like like if I can target like 10 minutes so they're not like obtuse and obnoxious to watch, that would be great. I think the format that I kind of used was nice. Like I actually used 2 different shutter sounds for her camera and my camera. So you can start to like tell which one is hers without reading it on the screen.
That's cool.
Her photos were looking awesome. She got a lot of really great shots, which is cool.
Everything has looked great.
And that's been fun. It's actually funny. The shutter sound that she has is actually an A6700 shutter sound, but the A9 III has that weird digital thing because it's a global shutter. But the closest thing I could find that I liked is actually an A7R2 shutter sound. So that's what I'm using, is an A7R2 shutter sound for all my A9 III shots.
Fair enough.
But it's cool. We've had some friends say that they really like them and they want to see more and things like that. So
yeah,
it's been a nice way to make stuff and be creative and not have like literally any stress or anything. We're not trying to like go crazy and monetize the channel or anything. We're just going to make them because we want to look back at them and stuff.
That's the magic of it. Yeah, that'll keep you doing it.
Yeah, it's what YouTube used to be. And I have another entire video that I'm going to put on a channel talking about vlogging and where that part of YouTube went, because there's a thread I can thread as it were between some content that I've seen recently, and I might have some people kind of guest star on some of those videos to talk about it.
Cool.
I digress. That stuff's up there. You can see some of the photography. I took the Fuji with me, and I did a relatively good job at taking photos. It's really handy with the flip screen to do selfies, and they just look better than the cell phone. So I can use the X app the Fuji has on my phone to just like pull those real quick. I was throwing some inside of straight out of camera JPEGs without doing anything to them into my story. I even did a post on one of my pages. I think I collabed with Light Over Time, and it's a series of images. They're all the XT-4. But yeah, it's been fun. So here's one that I edited very minimally, but it's the raw photo, just of Elle shooting on the beach here. And then this was the straight out of camera, which is just a little flatter. Just a touch of gray, and I just like a little bit more contrast. This is what I would say was an example, especially with really like large amounts of light, where I did think that the straight out of camera was like fine. Like I had no beef with that.
Are these like a relatively neutral profile? For JPEG?
This one is a Portra 400 custom.
Oh, okay.
which I use often. There's a couple of other ones mixed in here, but I'll get to that if I can remember. Here's a RAW that I edited. I had to recover some of the highlights and things. One of the interesting things with the Fuji is, much like some film cameras, it does like aperture preview when you half press the shutter.
Mm-hmm.
So that can get, I think it can get in its own way when it like goes to preview it all of a sudden and it changes the aperture. So you think you got the shot and you think the preview in the EVSF was correct, but then it was like super overexposed, or it's just different than you think. So I'm still getting used to it, but just a little washed out. I should have, pulled down the exposure comp and underexposed this probably a little. Here's a RAW. The other thing that I need to remember when I'm doing this is a lot of these film simulations, because film has kind of a baked-in color balance, right? It's usually like daylight or tungsten or something like that. It leans warm or cool. Sometimes I'll forget, and it'll just be not the correct film sim for the lighting scenario. So this was very easy to correct with the RAW file, but basically impossible to correct in a JPEG.
What you're showing me now, I went through a lot of also. We'll talk about mine too.
I figured when I saw your topics, I was like, cool. So David and I both were running RAWs and JPEGs like recently on very similar cameras. So this was in a Japanese restaurant in Houston. I just kind of snapped it. It was a cute little tiny izakaya situation. And then here's the RAW, just some grain, or the JPEG, just some grain and like whatever, but the color was a little funky. I corrected it a little bit. Though.
Like the warmth on that is still kind of pleasing, as opposed to the last one where it's a little overdone.
Yeah, for
kind of nice.
For sure. And this is just like crazy mixed lighting, so
sure, you
never really know what you're going to get. This was actually with the Viltrox, so this is an 85mm. So is this one. This is the Viltrox. Sure. This is Jacob was sitting really funny at a bench at the other side of my counter, like he was waiting for me to serve him. So I grabbed a glass and poured a little milk in it and took this photo. So I thought it was pretty funny.
Mine would absolutely knock that glass over.
Jacob's a good boy, so he's like delicate.
Look at his face, though. He looks so evil.
Yeah. Well, so this is a lot of really hard light, so his pupils are completely like tiny, because he's basically staring into the sun. But here's an example of where like even my RAW edit, it leaned a little more green than I would have liked, and this is actually pretty pleasing. This is straight out of camera.
Sure.
Here's one where I was like trying to force myself to use it at work. Here's the RAW that I used and posted on the Jaegerworks account. And then another example of just the white balance not being super nice. Yeah. Also, I found that this wasn't like kind of like crispy enough, so I needed some clarity and something, especially with the way I edit these photos for work. Like it just doesn't lend itself to these softer kind of more casual images. This actually is my old boy preset that I've shown on here a ton, which is just like I used a Fujifilm stock that I've used in film cameras. I looked at like 2 rolls of it and made a Lightroom preset. And then here's an example of when my film preset is much more pleasant than this. Is a Portra 400 straight out of camera.
Sure.
And just the lighting in this building and stuff, it just doesn't look great. Like this is... It just looks like a snap, but I really like this. Like this will be on my phone, and it's a good image. And then just a selfie. Here's old boy again, with the grain pulled down ever so slightly. This is at the fur ball last night. And then here's the RAW, or the straight out of camera, which is just it's fine, but it's a little too pink, and it's just like okay. And I just really like my my preset. It's pretty good stuff.
I like yours as well. So what would you say are your main takeaways from having done this then?
So you pretty much have to run, for me, for the way that I run, I pretty much have to run RAW and JPEG. There's an awful lot of times where like it will look fine, but especially when you're like trying to do casual stuff. Like I took some family photos in front of like the sign at the fur ball and stuff, and the straight out of camera JPEGs, just you're not going to sit there and like find the right preset and it's cumbersome to do that unless like I start really setting it up and I have like I know this one's like daylight balance, this is good under like tungsten lights, this is good under LEDs. If I do something like that, which I don't think I'm gonna do, it's just kind of cumbersome, and that's less than ideal. Another thing that I learned during this process, because in Houston I took my A7CR as well, but I left a Helios on it and I didn't run. And I have almost no images of that. I, as a photographer, do not care about manual focus. I've learned that over this photo share kind of thing that we're doing because I've been running a lot of these images. It takes especially with like lower end EVFs, way too much time and effort to get like a properly sharp image. And the thing that I want from photography when I'm just kind of running, gunning, and having fun is I want to just be able to like get my composition set up and snap a photo and like move on. That's slow and deliberate enough for me.
Okay.
I've had it where somebody was standing still and I went to take a portrait of them and I used punch-in magnification and I do that and they'll move ever so slightly and you're still just like fighting to get the shot, and it defeats the purpose if I like put it on burst mode and just like burst a ton to hope that one of them, then what am I even doing? I might as well just have it autofocus, like kind of same. So for me, and I get why people like it, but I've shot for so long and so many professional settings, basically all of my jobs since like 2016 have been using a camera. I guess, 10 years. 10 years of like somebody else is paying me as an actual salary or hourly position to use cameras. And I just don't, I like manual focus for certain things on video because I think that it just is natural and it's a thing.
Yeah.
I just don't care in photo. So that was interesting because I thought that I did. I thought I wanted to like it, but having myself forced to do it for so long and actually get after it, I'm like, what am I doing? Who cares? That's why I went with the 23mm, the newer one that doesn't have like the vintagey vibe and stuff. Because I was like, the autofocus is going to be fast. I'm going to be able to use this camera the way I want to do it. Slap a 35mm on there and just like live my life.
Yeah. I mean, you said you understood why people do it, and I guess I'll kind of verbalize that. I use the Helios. I recognize like probably half the shots I'm going to get are going to be softer than I would have wanted them. The experience of shooting in the moment is like half the dopamine hit, I suppose.
Sure.
And then the other half is seeing that the image worked and that everything came out the way I hoped it would, right? So like even the shot that comes out soft and not looking great, I still had fun when I took it.
Yeah.
And that's part of it for me. And especially doing that on the ZF means more to me than any other camera I've owned. And I think you're getting some of that out of the XT-4, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get it. But I do also understand, like you, especially more than me, I think, have spent a lot of time trading up gear and moving forward and going up the ladder and up the ladder, finding that tech that gets the job done really, really well. And you want to use that. So I get it.
Yeah. And it's like, it's super interesting because for, excuse me, most things, the Fujifilm autofocus is really good. It's really fast. I'm rarely seeing in normal situations where it's like failing me. It'll grab the eye for eye detect. It'll grab the person, snap photos. It is not anywhere in the same bracket as a Nikon, Canon, or Sony.
Okay.
But it's very good for this type of shooting. It's I other than like a little bit of hunting and video, this lens particularly is very old and it's not super great for autofocus anyway. But even then, it was better than I had expected. Still finding my eye, like I'm holding it out, with my long arm and it's just doing its thing. It's not getting too distracted. But I like just being able to have images and snap a lot of images. And I was finding myself like, I took a photo of a mural in Houston and then realized that I was like, oh, that wasn't sharp. And then like second guessing my focus peaking. And then I had to go back in. I punched in again and I did it and I moved it and I pressed, and this is with the A7CR, and it still wasn't like the focus still wasn't on the freaking mural.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm across the street. It's not like it's a razor thin,
Yeah.
focus point or anything. I was like, this is so annoying.
Yeah.
Again, I really like it for video. I like the style and like the character that a lot of these lenses have. But when there's motion to that's perfectly great. But if I'm just getting a bunch of like bad images, especially when you're punching in and it's still not working out, and it's like, okay, well, that just looks like I completely missed the shot, which I did, but it's just the coupling isn't there. Sure. And again, with the size thing, like having this big ol' thing on the Sony, this adapter, it's not any smaller. I'd love to get like either a native E mount manual focus lens or like a M mount, like even a cheap one of the new Chinese companies making these really nice M mount clones. Because on the Sony, the flange distance is so similar that it would actually be small.
Oh, okay.
But when you have, an 1.5-inch, 2-inch mount, it's like, okay, well, this is nearly the size of my 50mm prime from Sony. So like, it's not packing down any smaller. It's actually just a burden. So for me, the manual focus lenses hold tons of utility for video, but I just don't think I care too much otherwise with the photo stuff. So
yeah, fair enough.
I like a lot of the offerings from Fuji, so I'm excited to get the 23mm and run that. The 35-ish is like my favorite walking around focal length. I'll play with this 56 a little bit more, and the 24 will probably take a back seat when I get the 23. I kind of know that, but much like my G Master, which I'm using to actually shoot right now, but a 24 f1.4 is just nice to have when you need it. So I don't see myself getting rid of it. But there might be some utility if I start really liking this system, start using it more, potentially looking towards getting a second body in this system. Because there are some kind of workhorse lenses that I could see using that go straight way far from the Fujifilm vibe, but would be super fine for kind of any kind of work I do. Like, I'm really interested in playing around with the 17-40 from Sigma. I do like shooting this more than the A6700. So as far as APS-C goes, it's neat and it has utility, and it does feel different than running my work cameras.
Okay.
And I just don't care about it. It can be a thing that I just like chuck in a bag, and it's like, it's so much less stressful to have the Fuji on me than any of my other cameras because they're so expensive.
That is a factor for sure. Yeah.
Especially the A9 III. I don't just love setting that somewhere and whatever because it's one of the most single expensive things I own. But yeah, so that's pretty much that. Still going to be trialing that. Still working on the manual lenses. I'm almost through all of them. I've kind of given them all a good fair shot again. And this next week I'll finish up the last two, and we'll have a take on that. Our photo share will be shared the next episode, which I was hoping we'd be able to do next weekend, but I have to go up north. So I think we'll have to do...
I'll also be downstate.
Oh, perfect. So
wait, where's up north for you?
Oscoda.
Oh, we'll only be about an hour and a half apart.
All right, well...
Maybe an hour.
I'll
actually be there for 4 days.
I'll be trying to figure out stuff for the wedding, so I'll be relatively busy, but maybe we can sneak away and do a live episode or something.
Maybe.
But anyway, you still have time to submit some photos to lotpodsubmissions@gmail.com to have a vintage, not necessarily manual, but just old kit images to share with us. I know a handful of our buddies in the Discord were like, oh, I hope I didn't miss it. And it's like, no, man, we're busy. So you got a little bit of time.
Yes.
And I'm just excited to see what people come up with. So hopefully Fabian and everybody can find time to grab a couple images to send in.
Don't forget to add some context with your submission in the email. Tell us what lens it was, because the data might not be in the file.
There will very likely not be metadata this time, so we won't be able to sneak it. So any context would be great. Why you chose it, what you did, what you were using, settings even. But yeah, so that's pretty much that. We can get into, so I can kind of tee this up. I found it really funny. So during your travels, you took your ZF and did essentially what I'm doing with my Fuji,
Yeah.
and then you also have a few lenses that you were kind of playing with.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of days of photos from David, which will be cool because we have plenty to talk about. I'll start in just day one, and we are photo shared. So
Yeah. Okay.
what do you got for us?
I'll just start by saying I rarely fly. So I always, when I do get on a plane, I'm like, the camera bag is the one that's always on my lap or, by the feet. So the camera is on the top of the bag and I'm just pulling it out because this is a new experience for me. This is, I believe, the Chicago, just over Chicago. So I'd lay over in Chicago and then straight to San Diego from there. So you don't have to stay on any one of these images too long. I'm just going to say the lenses that I took with the ZF were the TT Artisan 21 millimeter 1.5 manual focus lens, the 40 f2 because I can't not have that lens with me with the ZF.
It's
And
doing work through that window. Like this is like way sharper than I would have expected through that window with the 40. So
yeah, and these windows, they were not very clean at all either.
they never are.
And I took the Viltrox 85 millimeter 1.4. And I gotta say, I was so glad I took the 85 for every scenario that I had it on this trip, but especially the plane. It's a bigger lens, and I was on a 3-seater for the Chicago to San Diego, which is kind of important because I had a little less wiggle room, and that's a bigger lens. So I was very grateful for every little bit of positioning I could make, getting pictures out the window. So the thing for me about flying with the 85 over these landscapes is I've never been west of Michigan. I've never seen mountains like these. I've never seen snow-capped mountains. I've never seen deserts really. So these might be just some, normal scenes for some people, but for me it was really, really cool to see these landscapes. And I was so thankful that a lot of flying between like Colorado all the way to San Diego was with very few clouds between me and the ground. And where there were clouds, I kind of just took advantage of it.
Yeah, like so this is cool with this like really hard shadow of this cloud right here. Like that's an awesome photo.
Yeah. So yes, I did also run RAW+JPEG, and that's relatively new for me. In fact, for this trip, it was the first time I really ran it. And that's for a couple of reasons. One is because I was testing out some newer custom profiles on the ZF that were more film semi, and I was really unsure if they would work in like diverse scenarios. So like I would be shooting like these landscapes and get something that looked really funky and cool, and then I would be off the plane looking at other things and realizes that I left it on, and like people are all kinds of weird colors, and yeah, it is cumbersome to change that in the moment. So it was really nice to have the RAWs to go back, and with DxO's Film Pack 8, I was really enjoying the fact that I could still look through like film sims that looked really good, and I really love that you can bring down the intensity on those film packs.
Yeah, that's crucial because sometimes you're just like, that would look cool if it wasn't so insane.
Right. And that was the case. So yeah. I didn't do comparisons like you did. I like that you showed that. So I can't tell you. Pretty. I can't tell you which ones were originally a RAW and which ones were JPEG with the profile, but that's okay to me. I just had fun. So yeah, lots of stuff from the sky.
Yeah, some of these are super awesome, man.
I know, like lots of backgrounds. I'm so glad to have them. And I'm really like, I haven't shared any of this on social media yet, and I'll hold off until the episode comes out. Because when it does, then I'm just going to be dumping lots of stuff because it's really, I thought it was just like so grateful, because otherwise for the most of this trip, I could have just been looking at the tops of clouds, but I got to see all this.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And with I think this was with the 85 for the most part.
Yeah, a lot of it was. It's super cool.
And so it otherwise would have been at 40 mil at the longest, right? So 85 really was able to pull in.
Yeah, you're like you're like nailing some composition, and that's you don't get a choice. It's just like hopefully you see something when you're in your little port window. But like this looks like this could be a phone background and it'd be gorgeous. Right. It's super cool.
When I landed in Chicago, I had 20 1,200 images on the
Oh,
ZF. I already
jeez.
I already had to start culling, and I hadn't done anything in San Diego yet.
Yeah, the tones in
Uh,
this one are nice too.
it was really cool. I was watching our like flight path on my phone as we were going, and we were really close to the Grand Canyon, but not close enough to see
Yeah.
it. But I mean, again, these landscapes were just watching them with my eyes were just so gorgeous. My family, my brother, his kids, my mom live out in Arizona, and this just gives me a whole lot more incentive to get my butt out there and spend some time with them and explore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I definitely have taken my ability to travel in the last 10 years for granted. Like I've been to a lot of really cool places,
Sure.
both for work and just like meeting up with old friends and things.
Yeah.
And but it never, especially the desert, because growing up in Michigan, there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
I've been in mountains plenty. I've been to stuff like that, but I've only been to the desert a few times, and every time I go, it's so epic.
Yeah. So that's kind of it. I didn't take many photos on the flights back, and the flights back got all screwy because there was a bunch of fog at home, and so there was a lot of layover time and hotels and mixed up. So anyway, most of those were on the way there, and I was very thankful that we had those conditions. So
Yeah, that's
we got
awesome.
to San Diego. The convention was cool. We went for SCA, World of Coffee, I think is what they call it now because it's not isolated to just America. They do it all over now. So I every bit of time that I was not at the convention, which was basically like some lectures started at 9 and most of them ended around 2, and then there was a lot of like walking the floor and talking to vendors and all that stuff. I know you're familiar with that. So
Yeah.
basically like 9 to like 4 or 5 was busy for me. So I was only really for the most part walking San Diego during like hours where light was good, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So like I was waking up at sunrise every day. I think it was Friday morning, Saturday morning, and then I was able to walk around Thursday evening, Friday evening, Saturday evening a little bit. And so San Diego is just cool, man. Like architecture wise, everything looks great. You've got old buildings, you've got modern buildings, you've got weird buildings. Um, you've got the palm trees. There was lots of birds. I didn't do any birding, but lots of birds. I did see a brown pelican. Very cool.
Heck yeah.
And lots of people, dude. So like I really tapped into the fact that I brought a ZF, I brought 21 mil wide angle, I brought the 40 and used all of them in the 85 to do some mixtures of landscape and street photography, taking advantage of every bit of what the city had to offer. I do not know. He was like stretching and dancing at the same time.
I love that.
Don't know. Don't know. He was one of the guys who wait outside hotels just to like drive people around, like basically like Ubers
Yeah.
or taxis or whatever. But
Yeah.
um,
Dude, that 40 cooks, man. A lot of these are at f2 and they're sharp where they're sharp. Like
Yeah.
it's nice.
it's a nice lens.
I'm definitely envious of having a small 40. I mean, I almost jumped out of my way to get if the S9 from Lumix had a EVF, that 40 mil would have made me buy one. Because it's
Yeah.
equally small in f2. It's so cool.
Yeah. And again, I was shooting RAW+JPEG, and everything that I was looking at in the viewfinder was through like a Portra 400, basically film sim.
Sure.
And so I would be looking at that, thinking it looks good, and then I'd go back and realize that it wasn't as good as I thought it was. So again, just going back with film pack 8 and picking something that was a little more appropriate for every scene was really clutch for me here. And just like this is something I don't get, at least up here in Michigan. It's just like people doing all kinds of things outside. Everywhere I went, at all times of the day or night, there was something to see and something to look at.
Yeah.
So each lens got like an equal amount of time. I found this was the most fun I'd ever had with all of them, but
Yeah.
there's some bias there. I'm in a new place and new experiences. The 21 got a ton of use. I thought, oh man, it was so fun to use with all these buildings, and I actually really had a lot of fun manually focusing the 21, even at 1.5.
Day 2 here.
Yeah, and this is where I used it in the morning.
Yep,
here
here it
21 got
is.
some use. Very fuzzy, very glowy, very like it works if you're trying to get the film look, because
Yeah.
it's so soft.
Right.
It's not a sharp lens. It's not a clinical lens at all. But I liked it. It was like I saw this fuzziness on the screen, so it was not something that I was like after the fact going,
Yeah, like if I
man, I
go,
wish it was sharp. No, like I was using that, you know.
I Kaiwar Wong right here with my Tokyo Daydreams preset. I can make this
Yeah,
boy green as heck, and now we
yeah.
got Hong Kong cinema. Sorry,
There you go.
I just wanted to mess with that one because I like it.
Oh, good. Yeah, so just lots of opportunity to see new things, use these lenses in ways that I don't get opportunities for where I live in Michigan because of all of these interesting pieces of architecture and people doing things that I don't see.
Yeah,
Um, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, the ZF was quite a performer when I needed it to be. And so I have a question for you.
yeah.
Um, I got off the plane with 1,200 images. I needed to cull. What I did bring was an SD card reader, USB-C. I brought my iPad and not my laptop.
Hmm.
This is important because I would not have an issue culling on a laptop. What I did have, what I didn't know was that even though I no longer have an active Adobe subscription, you can still use Lightroom Mobile to cull and organize. It still lets you,
Right.
and you can still import and export just fine. The problem for me was that because I shot RAW plus JPEG, I can't just move those raw NEF files back off the same way they went on, and so I had to export DNGs out of Lightroom. And so I was doing that, but it was a little bit like I felt like I was probably losing something in the process. So, do you have an iPad solution for culling that makes more sense?
The iPad solution, which I have used, I used the iPad exclusively when I went to Paris and London with my mother last year. Is that I just only take the images that I want to use right then and there, and then I leave the rest on the card. And if they get lost in obscurity, then I guess I lose those photos.
Yeah, so I
'Cause,
don't
like,
know if that would work for me because of how many I took.
right. Well, and that's the thing, right? Like it's too cumbersome for me to try and do it the way I do like full sets of images on a computer, which is why I haven't switched over. I even on my computer, I'm more of a like I go through the import in Lightroom and I only select the ones that I want to put on there. That's where I call. So
Yeah, I do not do it that way.
well, dude, with work, the amount of images I have, I could never just import everything and then call it later. Like it wouldn't happen, and I would run out of drive space tomorrow.
I get that.
Yeah, so like I just have to go in and take what I can, and like it's frustrating because sometimes I have to go back into the import and I got to go find where I'm at, and I go, okay, that one wasn't actually the sharpest one, so I have to go grab the other, file.
Yep.
But I've done it for so long now that like it's the best way for me not to like over import and have like all this stuff, because I won't go back and delete stuff until like I'm starting to get short on room.
So I think I also remembering exactly how I was doing it was I got to the hotel room and I knew I needed the space back on the card. I didn't want to fill it up completely and like risk anything. So I let the card just import while I like took a shower and got everything like settled in the room because I didn't want to sit there for an hour doing that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So by the time it was done importing, I'm like, I'll just grab that card and go again.
Yeah.
That was like where my head was at.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if you had a better, because
No.
I could do that. I could have just done that with the entire day's stuff at night, but then I knew I was getting up at 5:30 in the morning.
My other way to avoid that is I always take my Pelican card case and I'll just leave them on the cards and I'll swap cards.
Yeah, I had multiple cards too. I
yeah.
just didn't want to have to use them.
No, I understand that it's definitely not preferred, but I also don't have tons of room on the iPad, so I probably couldn't even import a whole like day's worth of shooting or even like a whole session. Especially I'm so used to running around with my 7CR, like forget about it, because those files are massive. I'm shooting 60 megapixel photos, so it's alternatively, I don't not travel with my laptop now. I just take my laptop everywhere. I have a 14-inch MacBook Pro, so it's pretty small. If I don't have time, I will just dump everything. I'll always have a Samsung SSD with me, and I'll just like day one and slam it on there, and I'll deal with it later. But
I would do that next time, having done this way. It wasn't terrible. It was just like a little bit like, I would have rather be working on NEFs for sure.
it's super not ideal. Yeah, I get it. That's the worst part, is figuring that out. I a long time ago just said there's no shortcuts, and I just have to have a laptop. And fortunately, other than with my A9 III, my laptop has the card reader built in. Like, it just is fine.
Yeah.
It does the thing. But yeah, that I don't envy being in that situation where you're like, okay, now I'm here. What do I do? Because I did okay with my mom's trip, because I didn't like overshoot or anything, but it was still, the iPad's not perfect. And that, like, trying to call on an iPad is brutal.
Right. And the day 2 and 3, I didn't even bother. I just left them on the card and got them off when I got back, because I was like, I'm not going to fill it up. I'm not going to do all of that again. I'll just let it be. And it was fine. But I just wondered if you knew of any apps or any solutions that were better for that. But it wasn't the worst. And I could probably change the workflow to import selectively in the future, and just try to take less shots, I guess.
I know what Elle started to do on our last trip is she's going through, because she didn't bring a iPad or a laptop. She's going through while we're like waiting at the airport and stuff, and she's just rating in her camera.
I've done that too.
So she can go in and dump it right into DxO Photolab and just see them all.
It's not a bad way to do it, especially if you like are in the moment and took the shot and you're like, I definitely want that one.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll get into the habit for that.
It can certainly help. If you took like a bunch of okay-ish photos and you're looking for your bangers or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of these are fun, man. These are sick. Like, I'm glad you shot so much. Like, this is sick. This is awesome.
These inside building shots are all inside the convention center.
Yeah.
For anyone who hasn't been, the convention center at San Diego is massive. It's so big. We had this at the McCormick building in Chicago 2 years ago, and it's definitely longer than that. It's set along the bay in San Diego, so it follows the water line, I guess. And so it's a long, I don't know, it's a long building. So there was a lot of walking inside, and so much of the architecture is wild. Yeah, and I just had a lot of fun. It was one of the most fun times I've ever had with the ZF, and it just allowed me to feel like, I don't know, it was the process that was better for me than even like getting these images, And then, Friday night was Artemis splashdown. Artemis 2 crew came back down, and they happened to be about 50 miles off the shoreline of San Diego. So on the back, if you go back a couple images, no, too far. Maybe I didn't take it. So right here is where we all stood. This wasn't at that time, but there was like 100 or 200 people lined up on this back.
Wow.
Yep, just to watch, because to the left of that image was where like that ship was.
Yeah.
And off the bay is where you might have been able to see the craft coming back down from the sky, and we didn't see anything, unfortunately, but there was a whole crowd out there, and most of us had the stream up on our phones, and we were watching, and we were hearing that we could possibly have heard a sonic boom, and we didn't hear anything or see anything, but it was cool to have a crowd there just like witnessing or trying to witness a really cool event. And so after that evening, and the rest of my time was just a lot of fun walking around, trying to take pictures of people, interesting people. If you go back one shot, I believe, to this guy.
Yeah, this is
Was
excellent.
the first time I had ever taken a shot of somebody, and they did not like it.
Oh, yeah?
He was not happy that I was taking his photo. He was jaywalking like crazy from one corner to the other, and I don't know if he didn't like that was documented, but he looked at me and he gave me just this like, no, like just gave me this gesture like, and I was like, oh, my bad.
This one's sick. This shot is
They
tight.
were cool, dude. Everybody that was driving like a cool car, I tried to like grab their shot, and
I
everybody
like you can see this guy
that.
back here looking over it. That's sweet.
Yeah.
That's a cool photo.
It is a cool photo. Most people were very cool with it. and I think if you live in a city and you like are out dressed nice, that's
Yeah.
it's just something to expect maybe. But yeah, it was weird like getting that like no gesture from that one dude because I was like, oh yeah, right. Like maybe some people don't like this.
Yeah, right.
But you are in public and you have no expectation of privacy, so I knew I was within my right to. But it was the first time I took a photo of someone and went, should I have done that?
That dude also looks that he could just like wear you out if he was mad
Absolutely.
enough. Like,
Absolutely.
that is a big guy.
I was not about to like just keep doing it.
You don't need this man to backhand you with those
No.
giant rings. I said,
But,
don't take my picture. Bam.
Yeah. So this was with the 85, I believe.
Yeah,
this whole session.
It's
And-
interesting. Chris Nichols always talks about really liking the 85 for
Yeah.
street photography, and you've got some killer 85 shots so far that we've gone through.
This was the one I didn't tell you I was taking. It was risky because it took up a little more space than the other two lenses combined. I
Yeah.
think, and it really packed the bag full. But I was like, screw it. If I'm packing a bag anyway,
You put it
I'm
to work,
carrying
man.
it anyway.
Yeah.
We're taking it.
Yeah.
So final day.
I love some
um,
pastries.
I found a roastery up the street. I wanted to have some local coffee that wasn't just there for SCA.
Yeah.
So I had the 21 mil on me, and then we headed to head up to the building again. This was where the lectures were taking place, and I was just waiting for my lecture to begin. So I set the camera on the table and practiced with multiple exposures.
Yeah, I see that.
And one of the updates I've done since the last time I tried this fixed the issue I used to have, where if I did multiple exposure using a custom film profile, the camera would crash.
Oh.
That's been fixed. So I was able to use custom profiles no problem. And I had a lot of fun. And I thought the architecture inside this building would make for some wild final results. And they surely did. Some of these could be like some indie band album covers or something. But I had a lot of fun practicing with that too.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah, so that's everything from San Diego. I think I don't even know what the total number of shots was. It was probably close to 3,000 or 4,000 with the ZF.
Oh, I
which was
bet.
a lot to move through, but
Yeah,
we got
yeah,
there.
that's
and I'm
awesome.
Very happy with what I came away with.
Yeah, I mean, you have you have a really like broad experience of shooting. You've shot people all over the place, like done stuff, but being in such a different area than you exhibited like some pretty high level street photography in my opinion. Like there's stuff in there that's like not just you're a photographer trying to figure it out and you've never been in a big city. Like you would think that you do this regularly with some of these shots. Like some of them are awesome. So, and you don't do this regularly. Like
No,
Marquette is a very different experience than shooting in San
You don't
Diego.
do street photography in Marquette.
Yeah,
You
like
just don't.
right. It's not the thing. Like there's like what 8 people sometimes.
Yeah.
Or you go to where like the college is and it's like it's not the same. So
Street photography in Marquette is like the tourists in the summer, and you don't want to take pictures of tourists. You don't want to take pictures of people who are from out of town.
right.
You want to take pictures of the locals who are doing cool things.
You want to tell the story about the place you're in, not
Yeah.
So no, you got some stellar stuff. It's pretty cool. It's
Thank
cool to
you.
see so much different stuff too. You definitely you put those lenses to work.
Yeah. And I felt it was such a different experience too to my last time doing this in New Orleans. I remember being in New Orleans doing street photography for like the real first time and asking permission a lot.
Right.
And that felt a little disingenuous to the craft of street photography, but I also got permission every time and it
Yep.
felt good to be like, oh yeah, go ahead. And that was nice, but this time it felt like I'm kind of doing it for real. you
Well,
know?
and you get different types of images too. There's a fine line, right? There's the I'm getting full consent up front to take the
Yeah.
photo. There's the I'm doing some street photography and like I'm not really breaking the rules. And then there's like some of those famous guys that take like the most ignorant photography I've ever seen where they're like in people's faces and stuff, which I absolutely hate. Some people think it's like awesome photography and I think it's so stupid looking, especially the like right in their face, like that stuff is insane.
I think that's one of the reasons why the 85 is nice because you can get a more profiled look at somebody without being right in their face. And it's still fairly obvious because it's a big lens. So it worked for me.
And like the compression that happens from it is just rad. Like, hard lights are good. Some of my favorite Paris shots were getting this hard light in between buildings.
Yeah.
Going back to this dude, like that's just stellar looking.
I
I
love
think that's good. This shot is awesome. Like, and like for, being a Viltrox, being like not a first party lens or whatever, this is certainly performing better than, the cheaper one I have. But
Oh, it killed. Yeah.
it looks great. Like, it's awesome. And the edit on this photo is awesome. I don't know if it was like a in camera or if you did it in film pack 8,
I want to
but
say like 90% of everything was a RAW with a film pack
Okay.
on it. Yeah.
it's just so flexible, right? Like,
Yeah.
taking a short aside, now that we've been communicating with DxO a little bit more, and I've been running, so I did all of my editing of L's images from Florida in Photolab because it's
Yeah.
easier for me to like not have them in my Lightroom and kind of do things. Between that and their new release software that we can get to later if you'd like, it's all really, really functional, and all of the film stuff is so good.
It's good.
It's much easier to use than any of the non-Adobe stuff I've used in the past.
Yeah.
And we do have a code now.
We have a code.
We have a code. We are now at least some official capacity being an affiliate because they offered, and I said sure because I'm currently enjoying my experience with the thing. As far as I know, there is a chance that if enough of you want it, we can get a kickback. It's unlikely that we will with our size, but if you use Light Overtime at checkout, you will get 15% off if you want to try this stuff. That's not a small amount of money, so I think that'd kick it well under. I think that would put it right under $100 for one time on like Photolab. So
Do you know what that applies to? Is that all software they sell?
I need to look. I have to imagine it's just any of their DxO software, but I know for sure it'll work for Photolab and like the Nik collection and stuff. So
Man, that's like a free lunch.
it is like a free lunch. We're really enjoying it. We're gonna keep using it. Feel free to check it out, especially if you're trying to get away from paying Adobe every month, because that can be really cumbersome if you're not making money doing photography. Like, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
Especially if you have the. I can do almost everything I need in just Photolab 9 versus using Lightroom and Photoshop.
Yeah.
And I still use them because I'm doing a lot of stuff. I haven't fully changed anything. I'm not worried about it because I'm still doing work for work, and then all my stuff plus the podcast and everything else. So while I can afford it and it's not super brutal to me, I'm going to keep using Adobe and figuring it out. A lot of the DxO stuff works really well with Adobe. I use the Nik collection within Photoshop often, especially for sharpening and some other tools that make it way easier to do some of those effects rather than like going into Photoshop stuff.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. One of the best things, the last thing I'll say for now about DxO is they have a depth map mask,
I saw that. Yeah.
and it's so awesome.
Looks
So
good.
I'll have to pull up the photo. Maybe I'll do that in a minute while we jump into one of your other conversations. But I can't remember if it's on my laptop or up here. But I have this photo of Elle from Florida walking down this giant path under all these power lines. And they have these giant pillars for these power lines, like not like in Michigan. They're like these giant, either concrete or metal. They're massive, and it looks really epic. But it was so good, I can choose where I wanted the like mask within that, and I could add fog, and it was pretty good. Like, all I had to do
process would otherwise be a lot of like brush masking, right?
it'd be like kind of crazy, and you'd have to make sure that it's remarkable. I'm starting to get used to some of their masking tools far better than anything else I've used.
Yeah.
Some of the auto functions in Adobe, like some of the like just find my thing and like mask it out and then have like the marquee around it, is still better for some things.
That's where they're good.
But their tools are really solid, especially for birds. I've been able to like get it really quick.
Yep.
It's kind of funny, like the way it'll mask is you'll use the AI mask and you'll move your cursor and it'll like pick different sections of it or whatever.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll hold shift and just click like two or three times on the bird, and it'll like fully get the bird.
Yeah. So anyway, feel free to use Light Overtime at checkout. DM me if you have a problem. But if you're interested, they've been really, really nice to us, and their software is getting really good. So it's worth checking out. But yeah, I digress. The film pack stuff is good. I'm finding even just between my presets and whatever, it's kind of like winning the lottery if the JPEG straight out of camera was perfect. But a lot of my selfies, like a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do with a phone that I ended up using the Fuji on my trip, was good enough to like throw into stories. And I do like that. I like being able to pull off something that's like considerably better than like Instagram's camera, because the alternative was I go into Lightroom, I take my selfie in Lightroom, and I edit the RAW on my phone. And that's not quicker than pulling a JPEG off the camera.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think Elle digs it. She likes the film stuff. So when it kind of is grainy and has like nice colors and it's softer, that's kind of her vibe. So
yeah,
it makes our selfies look good, and we take a lot of them wherever we're in cool places.
Yeah, so that's basically it for San Diego. We can move on.
Yeah. So now we have your sunrise stuff here. So tell me about this.
Yeah, this morning, I believe was last weekend. I can't really recall anymore. All of our waters are starting to open up finally. Today is April 25th, so mid-April, Lake Superior is finally opening up on the shoreline. Ice is finally breaking out and melting, and it's starting to get hard to find ice. We're almost into May, but the guys were in the group chat. We have a small group chat for a couple of us who go out most frequently together, Tony and Miles and a few others. And I was helping them kind of understand like what's important about like altitude with clouds and likelihoods of like those clouds catching light and color. And so we all got out this morning because it looked like some high altitude clouds, and it was kind of sparse, about 50%. And that turned out to be relatively true based on the prediction. I used the Clear Outside app to see all that information.
Word.
And then we mix it with a couple other apps for extra help. But we landed at Clark Lambros Beach, which is by the northern ore dock. So this ore dock you see here on the left is the one that operates still.
Yeah.
Sunrise was really great. I had the Z8 with me, and I believe I was using the Tamron 28-75 for all of this, and had a really good time. I was on the tripod.
I was gonna say, are you handholding this? Because this is 5 seconds. That's epic.
It's all on the tripod,
Yeah.
and I also had the ND 2 to 6 stop with the CPL on it. So really putting that to use. Really enjoying the Tamron for what its purpose is. One of those lenses that you hate to have to buy, but you love to have it.
Yeah, I'll say it every time, man. A standard zoom is ridiculously useful.
I mean, if you do just landscape, you just got to have one. You really do, because if you're going to be at like f8 or f11 anyway, you might as well. There's no need buying a fast prime if you're just doing landscape stuff. So yeah, had a lot of fun. Sunrise was really nice. This was the last morning that I remember having dusting of snow of any kind. We've woken up with a little bit of frost since then, but the fact that we had a little bit of snow on the ground was really nice. And we started, like, I think Tony and I picked up Tony at his house and drove in because he lives near me. And we were watching this red underglow start to develop as we were heading towards Marquette, which is about I would say 20-minute drive or so. And so we were like, oh man, I wish we were there now. But we got there and it just kept developing and changing. And so red underglow got a little brighter, then it kind of faded, and then it really pushed back quite a bit. So sometimes you just never know what you're going to get when you plan out shooting for a sunrise, because otherwise, like, some of these clouds could have been further to the east and could have completely stuffed us out. Right. But they didn't. We took that chance because we looked at the data. We saw, okay, about 50% high cloud coverage. That means, it's kind of a 50-50 shot on whether we'll catch light or not based on where the clouds actually are.
Yeah.
So it was really nice. We really did a good job with the sunrise. I didn't include the images after this. I took some bird shots, just some ruby crown kinglets. But some of the conversation I wanted to have with you today was, we talked about, at least for me this year, slowing the pace down with birds.
Yeah.
And starting to try to understand better, like some stuff that's local to me, and timing, and maybe some preferences on where these birds like to exist. Yep. So I was gifted these little journals They're like Italian handmade journals, and at the time I was gifted to them, I didn't really realize, but they're specifically for birding.
Oh wow.
And that was like, that makes it a much more special gift than I realized. And so there's like a little bird on there, and I've been using them. So this was this morning, April 19th, first bird morning of the year, 7 a.m., 4 to 6 ruby crown kinglets at Dead River Mouth, 3 female blue-winged teal at Kayak Launch Water, 2 mallard, 2 Canada goose, 4 song sparrow, 10 bufflehead on Lake Superior.
That's sick.
50% low altitude clouds, somewhat clear to the east, beautiful red underglow, about 25 degrees, light overnight snow dusting, 1 deer across the river, Tony and Miles there too. So I have this journal, and I'm filling it out. I've got April 24th and 25th, so yesterday and today. And what I'm going to have by next year is a full account of all the little things I saw. And I'm going to want to open this up as opposed to going back into Berta, because in Berta, like, yeah, I have it there and it's probably quick to see, but I'm going to be able to flip through this and read my like written experience of the morning, see how cold it was. 8 a.m. Lake Bancroft, completely open water, driving by, noticed dozens of bufflehead, maybe 4 ring-necked ducks, and 1 horned grebe, underlined, capitalized. And I stopped again at 2 p.m. that day, yesterday, and got pictures of that horned grebe. And it was raining, but I really wanted him. And this morning he was gone, so I'm very glad that I did that.
That's
so
awesome.
It's this that is, I think, going to drive me to be a better photographer. Just taking it slower. It's going to be understanding each one of these species that I have access to better this year. And I'm really hoping that I can combine that with being more intentional about doing this in good light. Because I think that is so important to just good photography in general, but especially wildlife. Good light and good understanding of your subject is going to take you so far.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely like it. I'm grateful that I thought to start doing a vlog for birding, because when I started to slow down, I just won't take photos of a lot of birds now, because I'm not trying to ID them the same way like I was. If I do need that, I know Elle's doing that. Because like that's let's say like her role in our like duo of birding is like, what did we get and what are the things, and then now I'm trying to document a bunch of stuff. I just don't have the capacity. If I'm also trying to get like some B-roll and like tell a story, I also can't focus that hard on the birds. I just have to get to them when I can, and then try to get especially doing video, trying to get good footage of some of the birds doing something interesting is super huge, which I think it kind of improves throughout the vlog series that I did for Florida, but we'll see. I don't really recall. There's so much footage. For 6 days I had 2 hours of just iPhone footage.
Oh my god.
So that was when I like dropped it in there. I was like, oh yeah, I'll be able to edit this up this weekend, and I thought it was like 15 minutes of footage, and then like I looked at I was like, oh, that is not. I'm done with day 1, and it was like a sliver. I'll show you the timeline later. It's hilarious how wrong I was about that. Little 30-second clips add up pretty quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely different to, I was seeing new birds that were lifers for me, like purple gallinules and things like that, where I was getting much better images of these birds. But I'd get 1 or 2, I'd know that I have a really good one, and then I'd see them kind of far off, and I would just watch more. And I'd go, okay, I know I have a couple of good images. Right now, if I take a photo of this bird, it's not better than the one I just took. Like, he's too far.
Yep.
Or like the light is bad. Like he's like kind of subdued, whatever. So I spent a lot more time like looking and watching and going, okay, cool. And then when I'm doing that, I'm more prepared when something actually does happen, because I'm not trying to hope that there's a moment all the time.
Yeah.
I'm getting into it and going, okay, I'm good. And then something's starting to happen, and I have the capacity, because now I've just been observing rather than trying to use the camera to flip the camera and make it happen.
Yep.
So yeah, it's interesting, because when you're like the first year, let's say halfway through the first year of birding, it was like, we got to get as many lifers as possible. We need to ID as many birds as we possibly can. And we were like chasing that number, which we're still doing. We're still trying to get as many cool lifers as we can. But now we've gotten such a substantial number. I think she's well over 300 herself for lifers.
So cool.
That if we can get good photos of birds we already have, that's what we're looking at. Trying to get really like more interesting things of them doing stuff. like warblers. I almost don't care about a warbler photo unless he's doing something cool, like he has a squirmy worm that he just pulled out of a tree or something. Like that's it. Like I need, or like a, you know, the black and white warbler's like upside down being a goober like he always is. Like I want something like that more than just like the, it looks like it's in a bird book, like ID book kind of plain photo. And I think we were getting there.
Good.
Both of us are getting much better at like grabbing in-flight birds. Like when we, you know, we spooked a few lesser bitterns and American bitterns on our trip, and there was a couple of photos of that in there, and that was cool. But we were, and none of the photos we got were excellent, but they're really hard birds to get.
Yeah.
And we got them in flight, and they were super ideable, and yeah, so it's cool. It's a definitely not wearing thin. Like it's a lifelong thing. This is like my favorite thing to do now is like, how can we go somewhere really cool and see like a ton of birds? I think we broke like 20 something lifers, and I think we got like 100 species of bird just in 6 days in Florida.
In Florida, yeah, wow.
So like it was pretty
What were
incredible.
some of your favorites there?
I don't want to get too deep into everything. The first episode, I can spoil the kind of end, was getting that snail kite and spending like 20 minutes with that snail kite, just like kind of hanging out. I was waiting so long for him to take off, and my battery was dying, and Elle tried to give me a battery, and then like of course in that moment he flew away, and I didn't get any of the images, but we got tons of like really solid sharp images. We were super close. We were probably, I'd say, like max 30 yards away from the thing. And we went to that location for that bird. So to be able to do that and for him to be there when we show up was epic. And we were lucky like that the whole time. So if you haven't already, if you haven't stopped this episode to go follow that page, please follow that page. You'll like it if you like birds. We're going to try to keep it chill and calm and kind of enjoyable to watch and focus on the photography of it.
It was nice. That's the type of content I subscribe to. So I was happy to watch it, and it's very good.
Yeah. Definitely different kind of content for me to make, but I just kind of rolled with it and tried to figure out how I wanted it to look, tried to make a thing that I would watch. And yeah, I think we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
As far as anything else, I did want to say, going back to these images right here, it's cool to see you running from 28 to 75 and kind of making comparisons on that lens. How would you say your use with this lens, like, are you missing the extra to 105 from the Sigma? Does it not really matter? Is it essentially kind of the same thing? I mean, 75 is close. At the telephoto end, it's not.
I think I have found that I can get closer at 75, and so that kind of makes up for some of the feeling of getting things I usually got at 105.
Closer as in like minimum focusing distance?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So I could close the gap a little bit, and I think in the ways that I sometimes use the 28 to 105 like that, I'm not going to miss much.
Okay.
For longer landscapes, there might be some scenarios that I wish I could go in just a little bit further, but I haven't hit that quite yet, and so I'm not like itching, and I'm not regretting one bit. So that's nice.
It looks good. These morning images are awesome. They were plenty sharp. Like I don't know that this is doing anything IQ wise that would make you go, wow, it's the Tamron, it's not the Sigma. Like
right.
You know, it's their version 3 or whatever. So they've had a couple goes at making this lens not suck. Yeah,
their version 3s seem totally fine. And I think I also, the version 3 that I have has the USB-C port that has the ability to put that little Tamron link thing on there. And I'm seeing videos about that now, and I'm curious if that's something that I should explore. But I probably don't have a big use for it. But great lens. Totally does the job.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm getting pretty eager to see kind of some of the new stuff coming out this year, because I'm kind of on the cusp of figuring out if there's going to be some room to get Elle into a slightly nicer system. Sony's going to release that 100 to 400 f4.5.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, because
we were talking about the pricing on this before it was kind of revealed that it was a 4.5 instead of a 4, and now that pricing would make sense to me.
Yeah, I think if it stays around the price of the 50 to 150, It's not going to be cheap. That's expensive. But I think I can get away with running a 2x on a 4.5. F9's fine. But then I can trickle down. L can run the 200 to 600, and then I'd probably run that lens. It's supposed to be pretty big. I hope it's not quite as big as the 200 to 600. But they're saying that it's going to be similar, but it has no external zoom, which is
that's cool.
That is the thing that makes me go, now it's purchasable. Because,
is that the case with the 200 to 600 also?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's going back to any of the really large lenses that has any kind of external zoom is like it changing its weight. Like if you're going through fences,
it's bothersome.
I've been so used and so spoiled by the 200 to 600. I've had one since 2022, basically. I had one, sold it, got another one. I run 70 to 200s my whole life. Like, that's been my go-to lens, and it doesn't have external zoom. So when I have really big external zooms, I just don't get along with them. Yeah. Especially, like, you got to just be more careful about getting dust in them. You got to be, like, it's just brutal. So I like that. I've had no issues, and I've ran this 200 to 600 hard. Like, we've taken it to Mexico. I've taken it all over the country. Like, we're really pressing with this lens, and it's holding up great. So good. I hope it's just a little smaller, especially because that's nice when you're throwing the teleconverter on it. But I really like the idea of potentially having a much sharper experience. So those zooms that are not variable aperture, especially with birding, generally are really sharp. And the 100 to 400 G Master, the original, which is a super old lens, is one of Sony's sharpest lenses. Yeah. There's loads of people that actually run that
definitely
over a 70 to 200 because of how sharp it is, even though it's slower. Mm-hmm. But it could potentially, as little as I've been using the 70 to 200, I might hawk that. No. For this, just so I'm not pulling out of pocket this expensive lens.
Wow.
I'm still flirting with the 28 to 70 f2. I think even more so now that I've kind of come to terms with the fact that, like, I just want to be able to take images. I want to be able to take images fast. I want there to be autofocus. I want it, like, I could do all of the work that I do for work with that one lens. Especially how often I use the Sigma 28 to 70 f2.8.
Yeah.
I don't need primes at work with that lens. I can do anything around, vlogging if I have that camera and a bird camera. Mm-hmm. It just makes life super easy. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Be a heavy lens to vlog with.
I mean, I'm from the OG Peter McKinnon era of vlogging, where I used to have I had a GH5 with a Canon 24 to 105 on an adapter with a giant microphone. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And my arms are long enough to run a 28 for vlogging, so I can run a 35 for vlogging, which not a lot of people can do comfortably. So that albatross wingspan I got is pretty nice.
There's some benefits, yeah.
Yeah, so there's some exciting gear stuff. We're pretty locked in. I have a pretty exciting opportunity in June for our big trip. I'm going to be borrowing a camera and a lens from a company that's very different than I've ever used.
Cool.
I'm working on potentially the price for renting the Fuji telephotos is really, really affordable.
Oh.
So I'm considering getting either the 100 to 400 or just going for it and getting their really big 150 to 600, because then you're at, like, what is that, 900 millimeters or whatever, 920 or whatever. And if we're going to go out west where there could potentially be really cool wildlife far across the field, things like that, it could be cool to just have a couple camera systems, especially if we're driving out there and I'm not flying. We can take a few camera systems and it'll make the gear nerds are really happy with the vlog stuff if we're like trying out all these different cameras and like kind of comparing and stuff like that. Stuff. So it could be fun. But yeah, that's not even everything I think that's going on.
No, it's not.
We really want to start trying to get closer to weekly on this. Some things in my life just switched up, so we're going to be able to have a little bit more capacity to do this between the L and Korey page and LOT. Going to be really slamming some of this content. I have some greater top-down YouTube content stuff about YouTube that I'm going to try to figure out if I want it on Light Over Time, or if I'm going to put it on a different channel. When I have it kind of put together, I'll talk to you, David, and we'll figure out if it's a good fit to just put it on here.
Cool.
I have a potential guest for that, like I had said, that I think could just benefit the channel to have that conversation started, especially now that I'm vlogging and that becomes part of the conversation again. It's very much about that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's been fun to share some more photos. It's been fun to take photos because we want to try and take more photos. We're finally getting there. Hopefully this was a good mix for you listeners and watchers. It'll be a lot more like this in the future, where it'll just be tons of images and we'll be talking about the experiences.
Yeah. Also, if you're not on the Discord, you should be in the Discord. Send us a message, Instagram, leave a comment, do something. We'll get you in. We are seeing some images from people that maybe are posting them on Instagram, but I'm seeing them on Discord first.
Yeah.
Ryan with his infrared stuff. Oh, so good.
Ryan has a really big project that he's working on. He's told me a little bit about. He and I are going to do a video kind of discussing it. Much in the same vein of your like interview series a little bit. We're going to go in, but it'll be more focused on just that particular project.
Cool.
I don't know if we're going to do that on a channel for him or if he wants to put it up here, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Very cool though. I think you'll dig it. I'll let it be as private as he wants it to until he announces it, but very cool work.
It is cool, and he's sharing some of those things with us in there. And this is a space where if you don't like the format of trying to talk to somebody in Instagram comments and you don't want to DM somebody, people are putting their work up in these channels and these threads that welcome conversation.
Yeah.
So we welcome you to join us and have those conversations because it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're getting some questions like, "Hey, what are you guys pulling off for like portraiture stuff for like headshots?" We're having lighting questions. We're having all sorts of conversations, so it's fun.
Good.
And it removes the ego of it being like posting, right? We're just having the conversation because we want to have the we're actually discussing stuff. It's not like, will this get clicks? Will this get engagement? It's productive and fun.
And we have a diverse number of people in there that actually have great experience and answers for these types of questions.
Yeah.
And like we'll just post pictures of like, here's what I did using this setup. So there's knowledge in there to be seen. So that's really cool. Again, don't forget to submit your images for the next episode. You've got about a week left. You want to give them a date?
Well, if you and I are, let's call it for next Friday, the 1st of May.
1st of May.
If we can somehow pull off doing something that weekend, that's cool. But if not, we'll find a time.
Yeah.
Even if we have to try to pull something off late on a weekday, I think we should try to get an episode out sooner than later. So let's get all those images in on May 1st.
May 1st, vintage photo share.
Yeah. So I look forward to seeing them. It's going to be a fun episode. I've definitely been, banging my head against the wall, playing with mine, and I think I've decided the lens that I'm going to give away to one of you. So, it's a fun one.
Good.
So,
very cool. That's it for me.
That is it for me. Thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. Share this episode with a friend who might enjoy it, and then comment and talk to us. What are you shooting on? What are you working on? Have you been running a ZF or a Fuji like this? Is this your style? This is outside of my normal photography, like running this type of camera. So it's been fun trying to find in-camera images that I like. The JPEG straight out of camera thing is where all the Fuji people on threads with their hot takes try to get all their engagement from. So it's been interesting.
And if you have any software solutions for me for culling on an iPad, throw them in the comments too.
For sure. And then again, thanks to DxO for actually reaching out to us, which was really, really cool. And helping you guys out.
After I paid for software. After I paid for software.
Yeah.
I enjoy using what I paid for. Let's just say that.
So if you have questions about it, you can reach out to us on Instagram or in our Discord. We'll probably start talking about it a little bit because I think it'll solve a lot of problems for a lot of people. I know people are frustrated with subscription services, and especially if you're running an older camera where you don't need to have updates right now. and you're not doing like really, really gnarly layering and stuff like that, it's very capable, but it has most of the things you need without fluff and obviously without the cost associated with it. So it's so far our closest solution we've found to, well, I mean, right now it's David's solution. He's not running Adobe.
I'm not paying Adobe anymore.
So yeah, it's been pretty cool. Also, we're going to probably get into a little bit when I get more time. I have downloaded the DaVinci Resolve update where you can edit RAW files and stuff in. So that'll be...
I wanted to talk about it, but I figured it would be on the next episode.
I'd like to get a little bit of time behind it before we start talking about it, but it's interesting. So
yeah,
a lot of exciting things in the world. And on the tail end of NAB, that means all the major announcements are going to come soon. So we're going to leave that as a small portion of our episodes where we just kind of speed run through all the cool new stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know you guys want to get to images and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.